out what exactly is the best compositions, be it for spawn holding, for breaking spawn hold, for looking for a 2-2-2, or for being able to play into things like the Atom.
All right, let's head on into our ban phase here. It's not like your comp games. If you're unfamiliar, maybe you're a FUT Esports fan who's tuning in for the first time, these bans are asymmetrical, meaning the ban is only for the other side rather than for both teams.
Well, we're going to be headed off to Celestial Husk yet again, which means that Jeff, Venom, and Adam are all incredibly strong compositional choices. Mantis is also going to be removed from the mix almost immediately, as we can see that FUT Esports are going to be prioritizing picking up that Luna, and given the fact that it wasn't a Jeff save, OG Seed are immediately going to be bagging themselves one-sided land shark shenanigans. How do FUT Esports respond to this? Do they start removing things like the Adam and the Venom, which we've seen allow that Jeff really unparalleled control in terms of either playing for a frontline brawl or looking for those dive setups and overwhelming the enemy team?
Okay, so it seems like first port of call is getting rid of Luna, which at least means that there won't be a Light and Dark Karma team up with something like an Adam, but now you got to think about getting rid of Adam, yes, maybe getting rid of Jeff to remove that symbolic shenanigans. You don't want to be going up against for double links. Invisible Woman's going to be removed, so it is still fairly focused in on the strategists, but not many ingredients of that triple strategist have been taken out just yet.
I do worry though, because OG Seed, not only have they got Jeff, the It's Jeff is going to find a lot of value because Ultron's being removed. Ultron being removed also weakens a potential Human Torch angle, as OG Seed are going to be able to secure themselves Cloak and Dagger. However, they haven't secured Cloak and Dagger for FUT Esports, as we talked about, this ban format is not universal, so that Cloak and Dagger into something like a Jeff could still prove to be problematic, and OG Seed could use their last ban slot to target it.
See if that's going to be the case here. As FUT Esports decide to remove the Ultron. And one last protect here for FUT before OGC decide on our last exclusion from the time stream in sports here. Maybe there's a world where they can keep something like the cap safe, but might not be too much of a priority. They are going to make sure that Invisible Woman's available.
So they do have the Phoenix still available for them currently, as too is the EMEA available, something that OG Seed could decide to try and remove from the mix, having seen that the Jeff is going to be able to make it through, and it's actually going to be the Hulk that they remove, which is in turn going to domino impact into a Namor stability pick, which means that that Jeff Venom is going to have a much easier time of being able to find those backline dives, because not only is Hulk not going to be able to be there to meet you on the dive, jump onto his own backline and provide peel in the form of bubbles, he's also not going to be able to be jumping into OG Seed's own backline and putting pressure and forcing resources away from the frontline brawl.
I'm rubbing my hands together like a devious clown right now.
Remember the #1 rule of casting, which is never talk about the composition that has been locked until they're out of the spawn doors, if it's something that we don't traditionally see.
Yeah, I don't know if this would be the place to play Angela either. Usually you want to be near a drop pit. Something like a Rocco first is a very popular point for Angela. She is going to be appearing. But Blacks is a player who has played a little bit of Thor, but mostly has been playing a lot of Groot over the course of their competitive tenure.
I will say Angela could actually be pretty good at dealing with something like Venom. In case the Venom tries to dive and then it's out of spawn.
It's real?
You get your wish. It is real. This is going to be the first time that we get to actually see the Angela played alongside the Fool and the Hela as well. So there is a lot of CC to just pull OG Seed into some really awkward positions.
We've got the Raw Storm as well here from Frost Manta. This might be a little bit of a scout coming through, because Isidore and Blacks can definitely offer a lot of pressure onto a flying duelist. But for the Lightning realm of the E being able to ground them, and just the mid-air harass grasp that Angela can bring to the table. It is going to make it a little bit more difficult, though, for the side of FUT to actually keep themselves contested on this point. Nice counter punch there with a Trooper's Fist. Gets a mutual stun onto Isidore, interrupting the Assassin's Grasp. You can see that Blacks is mostly just going to be charged on down here, even with Damon on the other side. Does not have Ragnarok Rebirth to bring back the Angela, but she's going to be able to come back in quick time anyway with her fast movement speed.
Still, no point capped just yet, and OGC do have a really good composition for just fortifying themselves and sustaining through these fights. They see the Angela come in, immediately go for that Diamond Form, look for potential Carbon Crushes. FUT Esports, they have to weave themselves in and out of these fights, which opens themselves up for taking a lot of pressure permanently from both the Loki and that Winter Soldier. God of Mischief is already on the field, and Name is actually going to cast it aggressively to invade into FUT Esports' position and weaken up that backline.
Big early ultimate there. Gainer decides that just one player will do. One's just nos to be removed, but Monk was more than ready for that. 4 players are going to be revived off the back of the Karmic Revival. However, this has granted OG Seed first capture priority, which means that this entire matchup is going to be giving them an extra percentage towards victory.
Is that God of Thunder going to be able to find value in being able to take down Lapsus mid-dash of the Eternal Bond? Out comes the invisible boundary paired up with it. They're all slowed. They're not going to be able to cleanly escape. However, OG Seed have so much sustainability, and the Eternal Bond is able to come on through after that one-shot potential has been removed from the field, and they can keep this point in play for a little while longer still.
Yeah, even with the Eternal Bond unable to try and sustain against this much damage, Frost Mountain not going to be able to escape. This was actually one of the first heroes that Damon had professional experience on back during the MRC Season 0, Doom's War. Who remembers that one? Was playing on a team with my duo partner, Empress, at the time.
OG Seed, though, they do have that Kraken impact. And FUT Esports are down all of their actual defensive ultimates. They will have Soul Bond, try and absorb that pressure off of the back of it, but they have to be very, very careful how they play into this next fight. Boxing themselves into one position is going to really feed into the Storm ultimate, and that's already the Soul Bond force, which means that KQ with the Kraken impact is going to find so much more value.
Okay, Heaven's ready to fall down, strings in multiple players with those ribbons. KQ just feels it around his waist, tugging and tugging. Gainer isolated. Isidore gets that one done with a Spear of Icors from above. Boohoo finds himself isolated. Isidore's going to be keen on the chase down, joined by the Thor. Asgard's might is levied here against OG Seed. And FUT Esports are now going to be able to deal with the dregs. KQ left behind, grabbed by the Light and Dark Karma, and confirmed into ult charge.
They didn't have to burn Karmic Revival either, which is huge for FUT Esports. They've got long pressure from range with this Hela. They can also, with the Soul Drainer, potentially grab KQ out of position. The second that this Winter Soldier utilizes the Kraken Impact, he's going to have a target painted upon his back, especially since Name used the Regeneration Domain. OGC the vulnerable.
Oh, Damon desperately needs to try and get that Goddess of Death, but it's Black So with the God of Thunder. Oh, the extra movement speed for stun and the tick damage proved too much for OG Seed, even while they had the Eternal Bond. And now they have to look at how they want to try and make this one happen. They need a TP.
These puts are just waiting. They knew that it was going to be a TP play, and Angela's already playing forward up to try and find the reposition on the screen. And they found it. They boop a Boohoo back into spawn, which means that no strange teleport can come on through. And OG Seed have to just throw one of their players onto the objective, try and pressure out a back cap, but that gives up the space to try and corral and deal with the Karmic Revival when FUT Esports cast it.
Oh, quick Soul Drainer and up to the sky with about 1 HP remaining. Damon just making sure this backline has no safe space to play in. Oh, Lapsus or D-Lash, you better turn around, buddy. It was a little bit of a bait and switch there from Closar, but falls in their own right for it. There's the Karmic Revival coming through from Monk. Closer and Damon both brought back into the fray as Gainer stays safe inside of the Regeneration Domain. Frozen up on the point, only a sliver of overtime left remaining here in favor of OG Seed. They don't have any healing to try and play with. It's just a Boohoo and KQ who isn't going to invest their ultimate, instead going to offer it up later. FUT Esports with a unique look, winning out in map number 1.
I kind of love pairing Karmic Revival with Heaven's Retribution. because it means that everyone from OG Seed is tethered up and can't chase down the res positions. The only person who could have maybe avoided the Angela ultimate with the Castle Kraken's impact had already been targeted out of the fight early. FUT Esports with the target focus perfectly on the Winter Soldier, the one who in OG Seed's composition could easily move from the low ground of the point itself with that frontline fight to wherever the res would be on the verticality, was always target number one for FUT Esports to take down.
I'm just saying, we could be looking at a 3-0 Thor scoreline. Let it be real.
Harry's
Odin,
just...
I beseech thee.
You've got your cake and you're trying to eat it too. I mean, FUT Esports, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. They're going to be rolling out with the exact same thing. And this part as well of Celestial Husk, it opens up all the more for flyers, because look at the amount of space that this Andra is going to be able to have to fly around. Not only that, the natural cover of every single one of these rock formations and plant life.
Yeah, there's a lot of vertical cover to try and exploit here if you are an Angela. Black's just going to be rotating around this central spiral, looking to try and find an isolated incident. Gainer already harassed here by the Angela. You better believe an Assassin's Charge going to be coming from behind as well. Forces disengage from the Venom, but still Damon's able to put down so much damage from elsewhere. Frost Mountain shows himself here on the Jeff. God of Thunder in towards the back. Two players stunned. Lapsis Athilas and Abuku both going to be victims of that one, but KQ is making space on the other side. An Awakening Room to start pumping out the damage as a Terror Cape afflicts many members of FUT Esports. Frost Mountain goes for an E. Only manages to find the opposing Invisible Woman here as Loki's taken down by their brothers.
Oh, double jump.
Oh, turn it around potentially. No, for just in time. The Jeff manages to make it back here. Heaven's Armory was awakened. Lapsis Otilas taken down by the Awakening Room. Blackso's got all of the accuracy that's needed to get value out of a Thor here and maximize for damage output. Gainer taken down. Frost Mountain, even with their tiny hitbox, can't do anything. A quick eviction from the point here of a Boohoo off the back of the Assassin's Charge, but still lacking much sustained. FUT Esports can't get too aggressive.
KQ is holding on to that Dance of the Butterflies, trying to weaken out some of those health bars, but there's too many players stacked, and they're also fighting into an Adam who's going to have that soul bond up and available. Black has already got another God of Thunder. He's just moving forward, emboldened, entirely isolating out OG Seed's backline off of the back, flanked by Isidore on that Angela. And that's going to be first cap going to the side of FUT Esports, who have so many ultimates available. They can just manage to take the hit on the chin with the Dance of the Butterflies and then set up the second stage of the fight afterwards.
Blackso opts to disengage here. Damon has inadvertently become the frontline attempt to try and shut them down. Oh, that's a big Heaven's Retribution here. Dragging in multiple players, starting to carve on through the regeneration. The main Name's got nowhere to go. Taken down by Damon's Goddess of Death, floating above it all. There's nowhere to go but to suffer the AC 130. Gainer in towards the back, coming close towards the Feast of the Abyss. But you got to worry about Blackso once more, channeling the God of Thunder. They're coming up thick and fast here as the godly powers of Asgard are arrayed against OG Seed, and there's no Seed of Yggdrasil to be seen. The World Tree is not going to give you any mercy right now. Isidore ready to try and hunt down any of the back line, coming down with the axes of Icors. FUT Esports looking pretty strong.
The synergy, Demon's just going for the Soul Drainer, and then Isidore's following it up with the Descent to get the most amount of attack speed up and health. Out comes the HGF onto Monk, who does have that Karmic Revival, but there's no spot for Frost Mountain to be able to take them off of the map. Instead, it's a bait and switch into KQ43. The Psylocke's able to find the follow-up. The Adam gets taken down, and it is going to be a full takedown rather than the self-res, but FUT Esports are still holding on to this point. They're stalling it out. They use the fate of both worlds. Feast of the Abyss and Death of the Butterfly should finally be able to allow OG Seed the picks to find the flip, but it came at the cost of the entire ultimate bank, and like you said, Born Again echoes in the distance, and FUT Esports are back in full.
Yeah, now OG Esports, they spent everything here. Very little remains, and they have got control of a point, but they're going to be contested against, once again, a duo of gods and goddesses. Death and Thunder shall ring out over this point as Gainer awaits the first engage. Satilas just a few percentage points away from the Eternal Bond. It will be incredibly important over the course of the next fight to try and keep this one sustained. Is going to be the primary target. Close are already forced to use their absolute zero. Name under pressure by themselves.
Gaina's been forced to burn almost all of their cooldowns, though. They're trying to get the regeneration domain from this Loki, because then that's going to pressure out the Eternal Bond so much earlier. Aegis comes on through from the Emma directly in front of the Goddess of Death. They can burn it out early, so they don't have to worry about that AoE damage coming on through. You do have to worry about the Jeff, and the Luna's not able to reposition in time, but the Jeff is too low. Black Swan the Four is able to chase him down. The Assassin's Charge comes on through from Isidore, depositing everyone from OGC out of position, and FUT Esports are barreling towards a point flip.
A preemptive God of Thunder to make sure that Jeff couldn't survive. Neither the ticks nor the impact. Lapsis once again under so much pressure. Assassin's Charge does go wide, but the damage might well already be done. Frost Mountain returns to the fore with the pentagram. The Pharrell Abu, who tried to seduce but was shut down. Left swiped in record time. A Feast of the Abyss blocked out by the Shield of Heaven here. And there's more than enough sustainability off the back of the fate of both worlds here. Portals closed, only Gainer remains, but there are no gains to be found. FUT Esports off the back of Heaven's Armory bring glory to Odin's name. And FUT Esports walk away with a Celestial Husk, and Thor walks away with a 3-0 win rate, baby.
You're so happy about that.
I am thrilled to my very core.
Harry is in his absolute element right now. Not only is he walking away with a free win rate, he's walking with MVP. Black Star is going to be able to pick that one up. And I mean, looking at the statistics, the Thor and the Angela, the front line, the amount of mobility that team had to be able to dodge out of things like the It's Jeff, and then they could also chase down where the Jeff went without really sacrificing all that much presence in the other parts of the map, which is what we saw some of the other compositions that had more of a hybrid style. You had like one high mobility Vanguard, then you had one anchor Vanguard who would be able to hold on to the point. But FUT Esports got the best of both worlds, with both the Angela and the Thor being interchangeable for both.
Yeah, one of the things that I saw that was really cool when it came to the synergies here was using the Assassin's Charge with Isidore to drag people up into the air in the LOS of Damon, which allowed for really easy follow-ups for that hit scan as they fell down in the predictable gravity of Clintar. That happened a couple of times to Name as well, so you couldn't use the regeneration domain.
That was a really clean moment too, where Isidore actually utilizes the shield stance to body block the psionic seduction so that his Invis woman is able to actually cast the invisible boundary against the Emma's ultimate on the point itself, which means that they don't have to get off of the point and can continue holding on to it. It was really, really smart coming through from them. It also meant that they were able to just play turns of peeling for that backline. So a lot of the time when we saw Soul Bond coming out, it was when FUT Esports wanted it, as opposed to having been burnt out of it prematurely by KQ on that Psylocke wanting to dive in with Gainer on the Venom.
Yeah, there's like the permanent peel that could come through from the Angela getting either on top of KQ or Gainer when they were diving on in. Oh, this is definitely a new look. I wonder if it's going to impact the ban phase at all. You can find out the answer to that question after this break for map 2.
I'm hunkering down. Judge, jury, executioner!
not trust what your therapist says. Thor meta is real, and for the teams that have seen it, it's certainly proven to hurt them. FUT Esports going 1-0 up over OG Seed with the first Thor-Angela duo we've seen. Heaven's Armory, Mox, has been opened.
Yes, Heaven's Armory is opened, and I feel like one of the weapons that you're definitely going to need to arm yourself with if you want to fight against it is going to be that Invis woman. You know, Lion Pro touched upon it in the interview where he was saying that having force physics as well as the shift, which basically drops a flyer immediately, is going to be incredibly strong to be able to deal with that one. So I feel like if we do see the Angela continue, FUT Esports would definitely continue to target out the Invis in the ban stages.
All right. Will OG Seed make any preemptive measures against similar compositions here? Of course, this is Midtown and it's a convoy map. We are expecting to see potentially a 3-3 hold right at the beginning to try and drain as much time bank as possible during that first offensive phase.
Potentially, we actually get to see more Angela on the defense too, because you can literally just have her hovered over the attacker's side and then utilize the Assassin's Lunge and displace people into small room where the defenders like just fortifying themselves into on that far right side room with something like either a Groot or indeed a Penny Parker with a rocket for all of that additional armor as well as the mine interaction.
All right, OG Seed going for an early protect here of the Emma. I believe it was allowed through until right at the end of the ban phase last time. FUT Esports didn't really make too many observations over towards that one, as they are going to go for their own potential Emma mirror here, which makes sense. I think Isidore might be the one to play that.
Well, OG Seed did actually have first point of contact with the Angela with a Carbon Crush grab coming on through from Emma. So I feel like, again, they're just very much trying to make sure if Angela does come through, they've got themselves covered in terms of CC, but they also have a good Vanguard to be able to try and play into something like a Captain America or a Hulk or a Venom, as we've seen spawn holds actually start to evolve, where instead of all of these teams just holding in one small room and then getting broken immediately by Squirrel Girl spam or Moon Knight pressure, you actually just play relay on the objective with one of your Vanguards going in, keeping up objective stall, going low, and then getting out, which Emma would put much more pressure into.
Why build a bunker when you could build a merry-go-round? Adam's taken off the board here, meaning that Monk will no longer be able to settle in nicely in that backline, nor enjoy quite so much peel, I imagine. OGC looking for their last ban, and they're going up against a one-sided Luna here. They're going to make sure that the Invisible Woman is off the table.
Yeah, that felt like a given how that last round of domination did go, as it is going to weaken not just CC immunity, but also having things like the Guardian Shield to be able to set up more aggressive plays for things like a Human Torch, if it's able to make it on out, as we can actually see that OG Seed will be able to secure themselves the Invis Woman that we expected as well being left up for grabs, so that if it is going to be something like a dive coming on through from FUT Esports, or indeed a repeat of the Angela shenanigans, they've got the force physics to be able to try and stop it.
Okay, Adam banned away from both sides. OGC probably going to have the option now to pivot into either a Cloak and Dagger or a Loki as a second strategist. Given that most of the tertiary strategists are going to be off the table, Jeff's still available for both teams, as is the Venom team-up, but we don't see quite as much Jeff on the Midtown, especially with the 3-3, because it requires getting alarmingly close to all of those Vanguards.
Loki can be a little bit alarming, though, for your backline as a defensive unit if you're playing into an attacking Moon Knight, because those doppelgangers, while also providing resets for Kraken impacts off of Winter Soldier's ultimate, also provide Unk bounces for Moon Knight. So we are going to be very likely seeing the build up of a Hunt of Khonshu in record time if they decide to play themselves in those fortified positions.
Yeah, having one of those doppelgangers out can mean that a player who thinks they're safe in cover can get inadvertently bounced on by a Loki clone. A Serenade from a Squirrel plushie will eventually be turned into our Midtown first point hold. You can see already that the teams are arrayed and ready to... Oh, it looks like Magneto's actually going to be holding the high ground here. This is actually a little bit further back than we see most 3-3 holds executed.
Blackstar instantly going to actually be burning that jump back as well to make sure that he doesn't get fully isolated by the iron wall coming on through from Gainer. But the double pull, like you said, means that that Groot is going to be immediately felled. However, he is going to be brought back up by the BRB. FUT Esports should be able to instantly reposition themselves onto the objectives to stall it out.
Oh, I love seeing that Mecha Moon Knight. Oh, the sound design on it is actually so good. Not just fanboy for a little bit. Terracade takes down Name there. A little bit of cloak on cloak action. As FUT Esports holds strong for the first fight, but it seems like once again, Blacks is just taking so much pressure.
He's able to get out of it though. He got another jump pack cookie from Monk and then got bubbled with the bullet from Demon, but you're not going to be able to save your Groot that time around. Hand of Khonshu is up for grabs. However, KQ43 gets fully displaced by Isidore on that EMEA into a full pick from Snost on the Loki. And OG Seed are sent right back into respawn, but they do have their own Sonic Seduction to open up that corner fight immediately. And watch out for the Groot and Moon Knight because they've been waiting to line those two up.
Okay, Cosmic Yarn Amplifier now given over. It's over on the high ground, so it's going to be very difficult to try and deal with maybe a mid-air here onto Frost Mountain. No, instead settles for KQ43. Khonshu crushed under masses of metal, and Znost in the back has got access to their own Fate of Both Worlds. Not before Closer falls on down, though. It's going to be resurrected. Out comes the Strangling Prison, and right on top of it, maximum damage from the hand of Khonshu. Blacks have returned on the Thor for reasons unknown. He's going to have the God of Thunder on the retake, though, as the remainder of FUT Esports just stream onto the card to keep it contested as long as possible. Was that a double force physics frag?
Yes. That was. That's one of the benefits of Invis Women when you're playing into all of those players stacked. However, one of the benefits for FUT Esports is that they were able to navigate Doctor Strange through the ban draft, which means instantly we're going to be portaling back onto that objective. They do have the God of Thunder as well to put pressure onto the Invis boundary coming in through from Lapsus in this fight, as immediately out of the portal, OGC to activate the Goddess boost and the Invisible boundary, and the God of Thunder doesn't find the pick that it's looking for. OG Seed continues sustaining even through the portal recontest.
Great play from Lotus Atilos. Actually, in classic Guardian Shield there, separates Storm from the impact site of the God of Thunder, making sure that no stun nor damage was delivered onto that vulnerable duelist.
Oh, they're going to try and recontest. Black says on the Venom.
Giving it a go.
Do they manage to find a pick? I mean, at the most, it might be able to bait out the Sonic Seduction coming in through from the Boohoo, but nah. The ammo was really far up in case the Venom wanted to try and get past, and you could just look for a Carbon Crush. Why waste an ultimate when you could waste a cooldown instead?
Okay, Isidore's already made a move here onto the Hulk, which presumably means that after Damon falls, they're going to be going over onto the Namor. Closer already opening up, though, with the Eternal Bond. The walls in the way do mean that the space gained isn't quite as much as they would otherwise like. Terrakit wards away OG Seed. But in these narrow corridors, you really are facing the danger of a Strangling Prison combined with the hand of Khonshu in towards the back. Only one player's within. OG Seed giving away so much here to try and make it work, but Damon with the double. Unbelievable value off the Meteor M. A Boohoo going to try and disengage. Exile, though, surrounded in the aftermath. And now getting through this corridor is going to be difficult without those big ults.
Yeah, Blackside's going to have Feast of the Abyss too. OG Seeds, they've seen that it's Hulk and Venom, and they're over onto the Winter Soldier for the Bionic Hook. Might be able to grab one of these overextended players from FUT. However, with Damon on that Magneto, he's got the Bulwark just in case KQ finds that early connection. Tainted Voltage also not going to be able to find the hits that it was looking for. And out goes the Venom. Feast of the Abyss means that you don't have to worry about the Bionic Hook until you try and get out. Now you have to worry about trying to get out. As that CC team, but so many of them were looking at the Venom, Harry, that Monk got a free run of just rampaging into the back line, and Blackside somehow, against all odds, survived the focus fire as well.
Making space happens in many ways, Mox. Sometimes it's all about the attention, and this means Monk now has a Dancer of Butterflies good to go.
Dance of the Butterflies, which is immediately going to force Lapsus's hand in terms of that Invis boundary. You also don't have to worry about your other players getting stuck inside the Invis boundary with the slow effect, because Monk on the Psylocke is intangible, which means that Invis boundary is out. However, you do lose your Magneto.
I think the Damon wanted to fall down eventually there. Wants to swap over onto that Namor. Does have the Meteor M. Frost Mountain's disengagement is a little bit troubled and harried as Closer with the hit scan from downtown's able to make that one work. So much setup here from the Loki doppelgangers does mean there's massive healing throughput onto these Vanguards. Already popping out. Closer ready to try and shut this one down before it can even begin. A dance of the butterflies. And guess what? No Loki doppelgangers have been afflicted with the culling aura. So the resets are going to be hard to make it by. Isidore able to disengage, and even Snorks is given over a bubble here by Damon, who still has that backline approach with the Meteor M available. Multiple players weakened. No final blows found off the back of all of these Vanguard ultimates being leveraged, and inside of the Eternal Bond, OG Seed should finally be able to find their victory and their forward progress.
Finally, but that is the crucial part of that sentence. They've lost so much time. They dealt with first so quickly in comparison to what we typically see on Convoy, but FUT Esports stalled out all of that momentum on second. They've got to win another 2 fights. Monk is going to be going aggressively right now on this off angle to try and build up this dance of the butterflies and take advantage of OG Seed having to burn potentially in this boundary before overtime kicks in.
Monk just a little bit of pressure towards the back, slowed down by the tainted voltage. KQ can't really afford to give all of their attention over to this one. Lepsi Sotila still under so much pressure. Isidore exactly going to be the same. Dance of the Butterflies ready to move in towards the back. Frost Mountain's already down. Attempt to isolate just one target within as Gainers try to turn it around with the immovable prison of plant matter and flora. It's an easy reset now for KQ. What once was such a sturdy iron bar is taken down once again. Free resets for KQ, touching not really on the cards, but the squishy players for Do It are going to be punished for such audacity. Damon tries to turn it around by himself and shuts down KQ. Frost Mountain's already committed via Mega Hurricane, so this is going to be basically wasted as the cart has been given over, but did need it to get back to a point in time.
Yeah, Blackstar was setting up the Strange Portal, which is why OG Seed went for that commitment. They wanted to win that fight out immediately, because if they didn't, and Nos was able to come on through with a copy onto either a Fate of Both Worlds or an Eternal Bond, KQ's advantage of the Kraken Impact would long have run its course through. Now we head into third. Nami does have that Eternal Bond up and available, but we finally had FUT Esports swap off of the triple Vanguard. They've got so much pick potential in the neutral, but they're already down the regeneration domain off of just corner pressure that OG Seed's able to put into them, which means that the Psionic Seduction is going to give up so much space. It forces them to burn the Fate of Both Worlds to match.
Yeah, Eternal Bond going to be used here at least to try and match up against this. Nost coming in with a second Fate of Both Worlds, but it's not in time to save either Closer or Damon. The 4 players of FUT Esports are going to have to cuddle together for warmth inside the icy embrace of Luna. OG Seed, they smartly disengaged away from that one. They've managed it perfectly, and now there's nothing to deal with the Strangling Prism that Gainers got available, nor can they really deal with the Kraken Impact. This could be curtains for the defense.
Yeah, KQ's getting full pocketed as well, with the Guardian Shield coming out from that Invis. Horn of Proteus is going to be up and available, potentially put directly into the center of that invisible boundary, or to put a stop to this Winter Soldier before the resets can come on through. Damon gets taken down so close to his own ultimate, but unfortunately FUT Esports just don't have the numbers to keep the objective stalled, and that will be a full push. It looked tenuous when we stalled out on second. But OG Seed, after being able to break their way through that choke off of swapping onto that Winter Soldier, kept the momentum going.
Yeah, great strategy style play as well from Lapsis Atilas. Being able to survive that dance of the butterflies that Monk was cooking on the flank at the end of point 2, that was critical. Had that not happened, it probably would have just fallen apart from there, and we would have been looking at FUT Esports being in a commanding position. But now, to even go to extra rounds, they have to complete the entirety of this map, which is no easy feat, Marks.
Yeah, FUT Esports also felt some of the nerf into that Luna. Fate of Both Worlds on that third fight on third was, unfortunately, it only lasts 10 seconds in comparison to the Cloak and Dagger's Eternal Bond, which now outlasts, because you get 4 dashes. Each of those dashes lasts 10 seconds, but there's delay in all of the activations. So Nami's ultimate actually far outlasted Nost's, which meant that OG Seed still had better sustain long after the copied ultimate had come on through. However, The true critical part of navigating through convoy maps is still to come. You've got to be able to pass the check that is the spawn hold.
Okay, definitely seems like the closest spawn hold we saw from teams like Envy is out of vogue at the moment. I think that one's been solved. So instead, holding down main in the roadway seems to be the tactic du jour at the moment.
Demon's already 50% that first crack, and Impact OGC'd had to have so many players stacked up to eat so much damage from the tainted voltage. This Winter Soldier's going to have ultimate before OGC'd even get Cosmic Yawn amplified to stop it.
This is brutal here. Rotterdam, of course, does have explosive bullets, so against players that are stacked up, you can get even more than your base damage when it comes to the value of the ultimate charge. Hook doesn't get too much. Players already going to be falling low off the back of the hand of Khonshu, but this means that Damon's got themselves an opening to work with KQ. The ultimate pick there with the mag cannon, getting rid of the second phase of FUT's offensive onslaught means that they're going to have time to stabilize.
Yeah, no rocket up for FUT Esports either. They lose the Moon Knight too. Blackstar is going to have that Strangling Prism, but OGC have bought themselves the time to build up defensives to deal with the aggressive ultimates that FUT Esports have available. Monk has had enough of these group walls. Over to the Punisher we go, being able to have the potential of melting them. Strangling Prison into Kraken Impact. However, OGC with the new improved invisible boundary just have so much sustainability.
Armor needs to be shut down in the back, but I don't think anyone can really get fire onto targets. Not's going to be the next one to fall on down as Abuhu claims them. KQ has been absolutely lights out thus far on the mag. Not really a bit more of a surprising part of their hero pool as Damon once again building up towards that ultimate. Monk carving through all and sundry with adjudication. Gainer taking so much damage, but just as much healing is levied up for the tree. Final Judgment ready to go, and there's going to be plenty to sustain it as the eternal bond is shared between everybody here. Both Name and FUT are going to be able to get rid of that one, and Monk is overwhelmed by KQ once again, finding these picks when it matters the most. A big impact from the Kraken, but it seems like the healing is going to be more than enough to try and get this one done. The Carling Aura is taken away. No resets are on the horizon. Isidore tries to sustain all, but Lapsis Otilas brings up the shields and shuts FUT Esports out.
FUT just waiting though. They need to wait out in Viz Boundary and then come through with Final Judgment. It's going to be up to Monk and KQ43. They either find all of the value of this Punisher ultimate, or the Magneto shuts it down immediately with the Meteor Arm.
It's going to be a duel between the pair, but who's going to come out on top here? KQ, bit of a newer quantity here. Monk very much old and reliable. Monk forced to disengage it within the regeneration of aim is feeling rather safe for now. Damon with eyes on the back line. Frost Mountains easily able to get themselves out of there. A good shutdown. It's going to be Monk who wins out against the newbie here, and now the aim is really leveraged by the Punisher. The Final Judgment carves through quickly. KQ has returned courtesy of the Battle Recall Beacon, but is just as quickly sent to the Shadow Realm once again. Behold, my Millennium item is the Millennium Gun.
Still, FUT Esports, the crucial thing for them, because they have to deal with the strange TP recontest, is that they were able to use Final Judgment without needing to commit a defensive strategist ultimate to babysit it entirely, and now they have Eternal Bond. The CC immunity frame perfect dodges through the Strangling Prison coming in through from Gainer, and FUT Esports have the sustainability. OGC had an opportunity, but it's since been removed, shut down entirely.
Holy dunk.
Black Arrow shuts immediately OGC's two players in one fell swoop.
And that was also both of the strategist ultimates now for OGC. If they take yet another fight, which of course they're going to have time for, they're going to be doing it with lacking sustainability. It's going to be all off the back of Frost Mountain building up that last 20%.
Yeah, I mean, if you try and recontest, you might be able to, like you said, burn out the God of Mischief, but you also risk allowing FUT Esports access to that Final Judgment. Frost Mountain has to go over to the Jeff to give everyone the speed bubbles. We can hear Znost go for that early copy of God of Mischief to make sure that he gets the perfect target of requirement. It's the Cloak and Dagger, so that the Eternal Bond can take away all of the space and choke for OGC's backline players to keep themselves out of the fray, and that sends up a feeding frenzy. The Demon to just fire away at all of these players with the Moon Knight, and that surely is going to be first picked up for FUT.
Yeah, I saw a Dark Zone disappearance as well in the back there from the side of Closer as Frost Mountain made the decision to pivot over onto the Jeff to try and get an early It's Jeff. Great response from a Cloak and Dagger, an old classic.
OG Seeds do have that Sonic seduction. However, Monk has the classic counterplay to it. Final Judgment, so that no one gets any space off of the opening from that Emma with the CC immunity. KQ43 though has Kraken Impact. Are they going to be able to find the value? Monk's just displacing himself to make sure that he doesn't get tracked down upon. Doesn't even use the Final Judgment, but it comes at the cost of his own life as he got separated from his Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, couldn't stay within the confines of the Eternal Bond. They must have been kicked out of it there by the Emma, who is actually isolated behind enemy lines right now. Who's going to try and cross on over. Blackstone's trying to cut off all of the healing that could come their way. A quick little bit of Lunar Light and Dark Force to keep Damon sustained and invisible as up comes the Meteor M. Going to be thrown elsewhere. I believe it might well have been blocked out there by Blackstone or possibly shielded by a Metallic Bulwark. Damon's got such a good angle to try and play from, though. You still got to break through this nasty choke.
True, but Isidore got taken down and Regeneration Domain had already been burned, which means that there's less tools for the Final Judgment to be pocketed. They tried to make a play with the copied Eternal Bond. It has broken through Subway at least, but the closer you get to OG Seed, the higher that ceiling becomes, the more of a threat Kraken Impact finds itself in the second stage of the fight too. And FUT Esports, they know that they're not going to win out that long brawl. They have to reposition. They've only got one opportunity left.
Yeah, great Metallic Curtain as well from Gainer there to block out almost a fully charged Meteor M coming through from Blacks.
FUT Esports, they've got the Sonic Seduction. They don't have the Final Judgment from Monk, though, to be able to burn through the Hurricane from OG Seed's side. The longer as well that FUT Esports wait, the higher the likelihood is that they have to walk directly into both Duelist Ultimates on the objective itself.
Monk going to be relying on the tracking here. Multiple players could be controlled here by Isidore. They're going to have to move into the unknown. There's a turret set up from so far away. And in the corner, there's no stun to be delivered. What a dodge from Frost Mountain to make sure the Carbon Crush could not find their internals. There's going to be a shutdown there onto a Boohoo at least. But Frost Mountain's delivering the damage, moving over into the storage area. They're going to be waiting there for a while. KQ starting to get it done. Reset after reset. Snost returning with the pentagram of Ferala. They're not quite in time. FUT Esports find themselves scuppered on second. An OG Seed equal up the series. No 2-0 here.
We get a free mapper to come on through. Looking at the schedule for today, we were anticipating one free mapper. So that is going to be the case, and Labs is coming in through with that Invisible Woman, being able to come out with the Force Physics to make sure that as that portal comes on through, no one else is able to come on out on the side of it and keep overtime in play. OG Seed doing a very good job. KQ43, a player that we've talked about, you know, being known for that duelist role, swapping over to the Magneto for the spawn and close holds. Really impressed. Not just the mechanicals, but also being able to find the specific target picks that he needed to. Every single time we talked about this is a win condition for FUT approaching into this next fight. Oh, never mind. They're going to have to wait for the next fight to begin because KQ43 and the Magneto was able to take them down early.
Kind of disgusting stat line as well from Nubsisa. Tilas out healing a Cloak and Dagger is no mean feat on the Invisible Woman, even if you are well set up for it with this much bulk in front of you. What a performance from OG Seed, and I'm so glad we're starting to see like the dividends paid for OG investing in grassroots talent. Because we didn't really see much reward for OG's attempts at grassroots scouting during the season previous. They kind of crashed out pretty quickly, but for OGC, this has been a great turnaround. What a midtown.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, right, that some of these teams, whenever they don't get the results that they're looking for, they just immediately cut their losses and try and bring in entirely new rosters. And that does work sometimes, but what it also does is it guts your synergy, it resets you fully. You might have been with your coaches and analysts at a level where you're trying to figure out like really in-depth stuff, but then when you reset your roster entirely, you have to start from scratch all over again. So like you said, it's wonderful to get to see that long-term investment finally paying off.
Yeah, very excited to see what's going to happen in our first third map of EMEA here at Marvel Rivals Ignite Stage 2. Stay exactly where you are. We'll be back after this break. The mythical triple mapper is here and it's real. And Mox, I'm just saying, win rate with Thought Angela, win rate without Thought Angela might be... I would not be surprised if we go to Araco, to be honest, which seems like one of the most popular Angela maps.
We can't.
Oh no, they can't go to a convoy.
I was going to say, we have been released from the triple Vanguard, triple strategist spawn hole strategies. We might actually get to see a 2-2-2 composition, but then again, Adam Warlock is still immensely strong on convergence maps too. So I feel like we might have been released from the triple Vanguard, the hold strategies. Triple strategist, however, well, that's another beast entirely.
Yeah, that one it could be that one could be permanent for now. At least on this patch, it seems like triple strategist is the comp du jour, unless you've got like we saw a little bit of Loki Luna temporarily from FUT during their long hold in the hallway on second. But I think that was with 3 Vanguards and a singular DPS of Monk being the singular duelist on the Psylocke. As we get in towards our third and final map, one way or another, FUT and OG Seed are battling to continue in the winners bracket. One of them's going to the lowers, but whoever has to face them in the lowers, I feel very sorry for.
Well, we will be seeing a return to Symbiotic Surface, and I can't believe I'm saying this. This is another actually really good map for 4.
Let's go! It's real!
I've come around to your way of thinking. I cannot believe this. But he's definitely got niche positions, as we see. No level of niche to describe Mantis. She is just incredibly strong all across the board. 12% with that damage boost that you can apply to Vanguards, to Duelists, so that if you get one-sided Mantis, you steamroll your opponent in just the duels alone. It really forces a lot of these teams into some very awkward positions to make up for the lack of it, so it's just easier to remove it from the board entirely.
Yeah, Mantis is what we might call a pluripotent. Just wherever she goes, she is good. And Ultron is also seeing a lot of love recently. Both Mantis, Ultron, Jeff, and Adam are the crucial ingredients to the triple strategist lineup. So often you see most of those removed.
Yeah, it is sort of like the Powerpuff Girls recipe, right?
Yeah.
The triple strategist lineup has to include one of those, or rather 2 of those components sometimes as well. As we can have a look and see that Ultron is also going to be removed on the end of FUT Esports. As again, these are not MSC bans, these are not universal, these are one-sided. And FUT Esports will be removing the Invisible Woman, which after Lapsus had that performance on Midtown, not surprised to see that one go either. It also means if FUT Esports want to run something like either Isidore on the Angela, or maybe something like a Venom or Hulk, they don't have to worry about that CC holding their Vanguards in position.
Yeah, Lapsus Atilas really was putting on a clinic on Midtown. So no surprise that they want to try and target that one out. There is going to be yet another Protect coming on through for the Emma Frost. Of course, that we did see a lot of interactions where the Emma Frost was good at catching Isidore out, but now with the longer cooldown on Diamond form in Season 4, you can definitely bait that one out and then have a fairly safe engage for a considerable length of time afterwards.
Yeah, but Emma is also incredibly strong into other Vanguards if we see something like a Groot come on through, so that you can just permanently have charge uptime off of being able to shred the walls down, plus Psionic Seduction if you're trying to play into a retake situation. Having that ultimate a lot of the time is one of the go-tos that these teams use to re-engage, purely because, one, it means that the enemy team either has to immediately react with an ultimate of their own, or they back up and give you space, which means that your duelists then get much more room to be able to breathe.
Yeah, we might not see as much Jeff here, given that Symbiotic Surface only has a couple of environmental frag zones, and most of them are on the first point, and they are not easy to access. So there could be a world where we find the promised land of 222.
True, and Strange Teleport as well, recontesting onto Symbiotic Surface is actually much harder to be able to pull off on the side of the defense because the walk out from spawn to where you can utilize that portal is actually much longer in comparison to maps like Hall of Djalia, where for the defenders, it's literally outside of your spawn. And you can immediately go into portal setup. Plus, if you mistime your portal recontest on Symbiotic Surface, the defenders then automatically give up any position of high ground control into second, which gives the attacking team so much momentum to platform off of.
Yeah, having to try and siege into those surrounding high grounds can be absolutely ruinous, either for both an attacking side or a defending side if so much is given away. Early breaking here of the walls is a classic setup. Oh, they're not going to actually stay on the high ground, which is a little bit interesting. Usually we see that one at least stayed until they're sure if a pentagram of Feral is being used or not.
I do like the fact that KQ43 is still going to be on this Winter Soldier. It's been putting a lot of pressure onto FUT Esports in terms of those Vanguard rotations, as we can already see. Isidore not on the Angela. It is going to be that Venom, so still looking for those flanks, which the Bucky will be able to protect against.
The new cap Psy, Venom Psy. Oh, Gainer super isolated here, but look at that. A double spinning kick from the Emma Frost, just tearing through this Vanguard line. Both Black So and Isidore left low and so far away from their strategist. They were cut off, I believe, probably by some group walls.
Yeah, OGC to have a brilliant reaction compositions when FUT Esports get aggressive with this dive, because whenever the Venom dives in, it's the green light for vulnerability from Name with the blind, into hook for KQ43, into Goddess boost from Frost Mountain, and then Gainer can just wall off the Vanguard LOS for the backline.
Yeah, that collective damage boost also gives up so much extra ult charge to the side of OGC as well. They're generally going to be able to outpace if the performances are similar. Monk forced to just break down some of these walls, looking in towards the back. Abu, who is going to siege on it, and might find themselves in a 2 versus 1. Can't overextend into that one, but Isidore's in a position where they might not be quite as comfortable. Brawling out against Gainer. Out comes the Strangling Prison, but Gainer's just going to be punished for such an aggressive play. Close already taken on down. Tilas for OGC draws them on fourth with the fate of both worlds. So much sustainability. They feel no fear, just penetrating into the invisible boundary that was raised up by Znost.
Yeah, and OGC, they're just going to continue pushing, which means that they get a late pick onto the Magneto. And that's going to be hurting for FUT Esports, because you're relying on Meteor M to try and keep KQ43 in check, and potentially also one-shot Frost Mountain in the Storm ultimate form. As FUT Esports do have a lot of these ultimates to play with into this next fight, but for them, they have to have angle control to be able to get the Venom and Psylocke into position, which allows OGC to automatically burrow themselves into a small enclosed room, which is going to be incredibly hard for FUT Esports to dive into.
Isidore's already had to use so much, almost doesn't have a frenzied arrival. Might well soften them up for Monk to try and roll on in thereafter with the dance of the butterflies. Oh, they're chomped through by the feast of the abyss. It's rare that you cut your food after you've put it in your mouth, but in this case, it works on out. They're eating wrong, but they're eating good.
Yeah, they ordered sashimi, it appears, and unfortunately, they also ordered an eternal bond, because Name was caught out mid-dash. You still take damage as you're dashing as a cloak and dagger, and unfortunately ate directly one of those Dance of the Butterfly slashes before the bodies were there to absorb them. However, OGC did not go for the teleport recontest, so they've already entrenched themselves upon the high ground. KQ43 has all of the space to deal with the incoming dive. As FUT Esports, Monk and Isidore were disconnected when they went for those hits, and allowed KQ43 to find the pick immediately.
Yeah, Snots was a little bit too far forward there. Was looking for a force physics to try and exploit Gainer's position. While they did drag Gainer down, they were counter-struck by the Rotterstern headshot.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you have to worry about if you are Snots. Can you get into those forward enough positions to use the force physics and try and pull some of these players out of position? They've finally been able to find the dive that they were looking for. Name's backline just immediately disrupted fully. Frost Mountain also went down before the Storm could utilize those ultimates. And FUT Esports, it didn't cost them a lot in terms of the ultimate economy either. It was just well-placed coordination on specific targets all at the correct moment.
Yeah, but on the other side, it was super costly. Gainer and KQ used both the Strangling Prison and the Kraken Impact. The second that they lost 2 to Isidore. What value from the Venom?
That is absolutely huge, and OG Seed now are going to have to burn an ultimate just to survive this next recontest. Out comes the fate of both worlds to live the end song Inferno, but Demon, after the ultimate, gets grabbed up, held into position long enough for OG Seed to be able to find the pick off of the back of it. Feast of the Abyss, the Easter can try and survive for a sliver longer, but gets felled by the Tainted Voltage coming on through from KQ43, and that's going to be FUT Esports then packing.
Well, that was a very messy fight coming through right there from FUT Esports, putting themselves in some tiny rooms so they didn't really have much opportunity to defend themselves.
Dance of the Butterflies is going to be up for Monk, but you can see that OG Seed are stacking their players up so that Name, with that Eternal Bond, is going to have bodies to absorb it long enough for the dashes to come on through and the healing to be able to stick. But you have to worry, if Eternal Bond is used in reaction to Psylocke, that's the go time for Blackstar to look for the one-shot with Meteor M.
Okay, Omega Hurricane wrapping around the back to begin with. Here's Nost, raises up the Eternal Bond. Frost Mountain stays within it, feeling brave for now. Dunked upon by Blacks, getting two, both for duelists. Slain by the hand of Magneto. The Master of Magnetism takes two away, but still Abu, who believes that it's winnable, uses the Sonic Seduction here, but I don't think it's grabbed anything off the back of it. So it's just a massive disengage here from OG Seed, having to give away so much space, waiting for their doors to rejoin them. Monk has to be careful when it comes to these disengagements. Is getting very aggressive here, but it's been backed up by Damon. Did they just manage to dodge Gainer's ultimate using the Phoenix Force? That's ridiculous! Damon just hangs out above them, T-posing to assert dominance before Name takes them out in their own right. OGC have now used all of their sustainability tools, so surviving Isidor's onslaught is going to be all the more dangerous. Extra health given over, but still carved through by KQ. And the Kraken Impact's good to go if only he's brave enough to use it with FUT Esports giving up all of his space. Maybe it's not going to be necessary.
Yeah, they can't commit in this Psylocke Dance to the Butterflies until Isidore is there with that Venom's additional damage to find the slam. There's a very slim opportunity. They have to go now! Monk tries to find the pick. Name's able to burn off Eternal Bond in the meantime, however, and Dance of the Butterflies finds nothing except a 2-forward position. Monk gets felled by the Winter Soldier.
Damon just freely slicing away with the Adamantium Claws. Labs is so far away for the moment. Can they get back inside the Eternal Bond? Just about skates in, but Isidore's there with the follow-up. FUT Esports are out of time, out of second chances, and here comes the Portal recontest. This time from Monk. Gain is also going to be on deck to make sure that everyone's going to be present for this last and final fight. At the moment, it seems like there's been some interception of portaling for the moment, and FUT Esports, we need to stay on the point. The Omega Hurricane's going to make that a very dangerous prospect, looking over towards Valuna, waiting for the Ice Arts to finish, so there's no self-sustainability to be found. Instead, opts into Znost as the primary target, so it means that they're lacking the overall damage. Closer now stands alone. The Goddess Boost will burn them. It's coming through. The Wolverine can't find anything. Frost Mountain rolls on fourth, and damage boost is stacked upon damage boost as OG Seed finally see the tree that they planted begin to grow. FUT Esports is scuppered at the end of second.
It was all about the disengage off of the high ground. Yes, strangling Prison as they fell did not find the value that they were looking for in terms of pick potential, but it bought their Luna, it bought Lapsus the opportunity of disengaging safely so close to Fate of Both Worlds. Like, we even saw FUT Esports when we were watching Monk's POV, that Psylocke committed so far forward to try to go for the chase. They knew how close the Luna was to being able to get that ultimate online, and OGC's recontest hinged on Fate of Both Worlds being in place so that they could back up into their safe spaces, come back through with that Lunar ultimate, set KQ43 into an opportunity to build into Kraken Impact, and have the last laugh the longer that the fight went. Really good disengagement plays coming on through from OGC to be able to turn that around.
Dude, Lepsiso Tilas once again just pumping out the healing. Unreal backline sustainability here from OG Seed, even missing out on a Cloak and Dagger ultimate off the back of that excellent dive from Isidore and Monk to crack open first point. I wonder if that hadn't worked out as well, if maybe we'd be looking at a first point hold potentially from OG Seed.
They've impressed, really. Like, Lapsus being able to do all that they have while also having to juggle the attention of a Venom and a Psylocke, really gunning to take you down because you are that prime target. Name is the prime target for the Meteor M destination, but Lapsus in the neutral is always always the prime target. As we can see, FUT Esports, they're lying in wait. They're waiting for OG Seeds to walk into a potential dive position before Isidore is going to be able to slam down onto that back line. But OG Seed have rotated into the small room, which prevents the dive from committing in.
Yeah, a lot of homework done to make sure that Monk can't be in a very comfortable position to try and follow up on Isidore's own play. In comes a frenzied arrival, a missed carbon crush here from Abu, who is going to be, there's a little bit more safety for Isidore to play with, but there's still a lot of damage that's going to be sent their way. Abu who building up towards 100, charged Black, so gets grabbed on in. The Trooper's Fist means that there's no escape for the Groot. What a win condition that's now been forged by OG Seed. If they miss out on Lapsus though, things could turn around. The peel comes through from KQ, who's just having a lights out game on both the Winter Soldier and the Magneto. But when one Vanguard demands praise, another rises up to take their place. Gainer with the long-range poke manages to get rid of Monk.
FUT Esports are putting stock in the teleport recontest. If this doesn't pay off, they're losing so much momentum on second.
Forces out Name's Eternal Bond here. Plenty of sustainability on the point for OG Seed and Lapsis. Ortilas in the back still has access to their own. FUT Esports are going to invest now with Closer, able to match. In comes the dance of the butterfly, sharing out the damage. It's easy to do so. Oh, the culling aura. It's onto everybody here. And now KQ can begin feasting. Sees all of the targets and is able to carve through all that stand before them. OG Seed carve through first in record time.
Potentially carve through second as well. This is what we talked about. Look at the absence of defensive bodies on high ground. KQ43, the force physics knockback at least means that OG Seed don't get another reset attachment of the Kraken Impact, but it is going to be a rough task to turn this one around. You really have to have a huge impact of Eye of Agamotto, but the second that Blackstar looks for it, KQ43 is going to be looking to cancel it, so too is a Boohoo.
Frost Mountain ready to go with the Omega Hurricane. KQ fallen down early. FUT need to not overinvest in a fight that maybe they have already got an advantage in. Frost Mountain dragged down towards Terra Firma by the Sonic Seduction, and now FUT Esports have a chance to control these high grounds.
Who does have that Sonic Seduction. FUT Esports are going to be kicking things off with the Feast of the Abyss. Gets everybody low enough. And Frost Mountain is going to fall. Nami not wanting to part with that Eternal Bond. Holding on to it to have to try to deal with either the Kraken Impact or the Eye of Agamotto. Out comes the Kraken Impact, potentially. But it's not going to be enough. The Eye of Agamotto is finally there because the Cloak Ultimate was absent. And that's the turnaround that FUT Esports were looking for.
Eternal Bond is gone. Frost Mountain still popping off. Gainer from downtown. The Spore Bomb, the Kobe. Just give LeBron the spores. FUT Esports, they throw so much into that and they have nothing to show for it.
They've got Dance of the Butterflies. They're so close as well to a fate of both worlds to try and deal with KQ43. This is an absolute race between those two players. And KQ43 finds the pick. Monk, the one of the ultimates removed from the fight.
That was the most important player. Closer was so close as well. 7% away, falls down to a Boohoo who's just tearing through FUT Esports. OG Seed finally start to see return on investment. They looked for the grassroots, but the grass is certainly greener right now. FUT Esports slain in our first Map 3 banger.
If it was the backline that impressed for the defense from OG Seed, it's the duelists that really impressed in those aggressive plays. KQ43, every single time that we talked about him needing to find a pick against one person who had that turning point ultimate for FUT Esports, he came through almost 2 seconds after we talked about it being necessary. Oh, there's a Psylocke with Dance of the Butterflies. They're so close to having Fate of both worlds up. If the Psylocke ultimate comes on through before that's available, they're going to have to invest things like the Kraken Impacts just to try and find the pick potential to have those damages coming out onto FUT Esports, potentially sacrifice the backline in the meantime. But he finds the pick while Monk is mid-setup to come in from the off angle, off of the space created by Islam from Isidore, just off of pressure from Bucky and neutral alone.
What a clutch from Frost Mountain as well. Just playing Storm in the neutral. We don't see many teams that are just like playing Storm for the love of the game, you know? Like we see Storm to break the 3-3 quite often, but going up against regular compositions, it seems like Frost Mountain is fairly unique in their... They just love the Storm to begin with. And they've done so well to shut them down.
Storm was more like a reactionary damage boost whenever the dive comes on through. Because we talk so much about, you know, the value of Cap versus Venom, right? Cap has the potential of blocking so much more damage in comparison to Venom, who tries to live and sustain in those dives longer off of his shields, and also having the mobility of being able to come in and out. But what then if you add in a new component where whenever that Venom comes in, you automatically follow up with a Goddess boost, which puts so much pressure onto the Venom that by the time that the Psylocke is looking to follow up onto that dive, the Venom is getting out as the Psylocke is going in, which is never how you want your dive to be formulated. You need to have both of your dive components in the fight at the same time, because Psylocke is a lot squishier in comparison to the Venom. Venom has to be there to absorb that threat.
Yeah, and Isidore certainly absorbed a lot of fire, but unfortunately was often left looking like Swiss cheese for their efforts. This is quite the upset. When we looked at our match docket today, we weren't expecting this to be our map number 3. We certainly weren't expecting it to be FUT Esports banished down to a lower bracket. So I do not envy whoever has to face FUT Esports down there, to be honest, because they are going to be mad and they are going to potentially be in for another bullying session of Heaven's Armory. However, it might be telling that the best look we've seen from them today was for Thor Angela, so maybe there needs to be a little bit more scrim time divvied up to these other compositions.
I feel like if you're going to try and run dive components, there's certain things that you just have to have removed from play, and I think it was very heads up that we did see the Emma save for all of the reasons that we talked about, right? It was strong into the group, always constantly on near full charge, but it was also immensely strong in being able to deal with the dive components, and then also you introduce things like the Winter Soldier with the Bionic Hook, and you don't want to burn bans on things like Storm or Winter Soldier in this current meta, because if you go after those and bans, well, things like the Adam, the Jeff, the Venom, all of those start to slip on through too.
Yeah, like when those things start to just make it through, you need to you need to try and deal with them. Oh, excellent! We have ourselves a MVP to interview today. Coming in from the side of OG Seed, we have Lepsis Otilas. Could you critique my finish for Lepsis Otilas? Is that close?
It's fine. It's fine. Yes, it's good. It's good. I don't mind.
Take fine. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So from going to critique and pronunciation to critiquing gameplay, because one thing that we saw that your team was able to do every single time it came through was deal with the dive of that Venom and the Psylocke. Was it the heroes that you guys had been able to secure for the drafts that made it so easy to be able to deal with, or was it more the coordination and communication between the team?
I think coordination. We knew what team we were going to play against. They play dive really well, and me and Name, we have pretty good synergy in the backline, and I mean everyone pulled through with peeling. I mean I think we just played it off as a team pretty well.
What's it been like working with OG for getting ready for this season? Have you guys been receiving a lot of support from the org?
Yeah, a lot. The org is helping us a lot. We have our manager and coach. We've been screaming a lot. Yeah.
So you said coming into this match you expected them to be playing a lot of that dive. Did you expect them to be playing Angela 4, or was that something that was sort of a curveball?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, we knew they're going to play a lot of stuff. Well, they usually can play a lot of stuff, so we really didn't know instantly what they would play out the gate, but I mean, that was a bit surprising, not going to lie.
Definitely seemed like you managed to pull a bunch of value out of playing Invisible Woman. Would you say that your Invis is a standout from other Invisible players in EMEA at the moment?
I mean, I guess a bit maybe. I wouldn't rank myself, like, I still look up to certain people up there, you know, of course. But I mean, I'm really comfortable on that hero. So in that sense, I'd say, yeah, that's like a standout hero for myself.
Invis is a strategist as well that hasn't really had all that much of a conspicuous position in the meta because of just how outshine she was in comparison to things like the Loki, the Luna, the Cloak and Dagger in our previous metas. What do you think differentiates a good Invis from a really great Invisible Woman player?
I guess just like understanding of the game, when to pull, what to pull, positioning, how to use the shield. Like you can't just like brainlessly use these cooldowns. I guess that's just this mostly. Like macro understanding of the game, I guess.
You guys used a lot of Storm today. We usually see Storm used to break the 3-3. What's the deal with the Storm on Symbiotic's surface when you're going up against a more classic comp?
Second?
Why do you use Storm on Symbiotic's surface against like a 2-2-2?
Yeah, I mean, Storm is just like, we really found success with that. So we just pulled it out. Because, I mean, we like that comp, we like to run it, and we played well, I think. So we just used it again.
Well, we certainly like to watch you use it. Thank you so much for joining us, Lapsizo Tielas, and congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Enjoy the upper bracket.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
See ya.
That was our double MVP, Lapsizo Tielas, coming through from OG Seed, and quite the upset victory over FUT Esports, and it's great to see them finally start to find that success that we expect from like the OG brand. And that was actually such a